Hi there, it's Amy from Cakes with Faces and I'm here with Phil.
Hello.
And it's volume 2 of our Q&A video. We had so many questions that we couldn't fit them all into one video. So we've got questions about Japan, about Cakes with Faces, about planning your trips, all sorts of things. There's some really good ones. So...
yeah, straight to it.
Let's go.
Right. Astronaut asks, what is your favourite Japanese food and which konbini is your favourite?
My favourite is okonomiyaki, which is like a Japanese pancake in a way. It's not anything like a pancake really, that you often cook yourself on the table, and it's got really delicious sauce and you have Japanese mayo on it. Really good.
I really like sushi, I really like ramen, and I love the feeling of stumbling across some great takoyaki or street food like that. So that's not a single answer.
You like all the food, don't you?
Randy Hightower, I wouldn't mind hearing more about the process for making your book.
Well, it took me over 2 years to make my book. When I first thought of the idea, I was thinking of how a lot of the travel guides I had a lot of things missing and didn't include the things that I wanted. So I wanted to make the book that included all the things I would have found useful. So I made a big spider diagram of everything I wanted to be in there, and then started to put everything in order, and gradually over time I sort of fleshed it all out.
One of the things you adamant it shouldn't be is a list of advertising of hotels or restaurants. If there's one we recommend, it'd have to go in there, but buying a travel guide that is 50% hotel listings, obviously that's what pays for it to be made, but it's not very useful to you.
No, once you've booked your trip, it's useless. So.
You also had the advantage that you get questions all the time about
Yes.
travel to Japan, so you kind of know what people are actually looking for, which I think is not always the case when travel guides come out. I think a lot of the bigger names, they stick to a formula and don't actually address the questions people have.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make it as useful as possible and thought about what I would have wanted.
You've had a lot of questions about solo trips to Japan, so people travelling on their own. People want to know if you've got any recommendations for solo travellers. They want to know if you've got any advice for them on how to plan or things they can do. And if you've ever had any homesickness, how you deal with that kind of thing if you're on your own.
I actually get quite a lot of comments on my videos from people who are considering going on their own. So I don't think it's something you need to worry about too much, because Japan is a really safe place. So from a safety aspect, you don't need to worry too much. When we've only been around on our own for a really short time, like when we did the Gachapon challenge, and we split up to have meals in separate places sometimes when there were different places we wanted to go to. And when I've been out to eat on my own, I didn't feel self-conscious at all. It wasn't like in some places there's a bit of a stigma about eating on your own, I think, but a lot of people were there on their own. Like a lot of restaurants have bars you can sit at. Didn't feel self-conscious at all.
It's
I think,
really common for people to be eating on their own.
Yeah, and if you went on a trip on your own, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to make any compromises for anyone else. I think you could have a great time.
Yeah, if I was on my own, I would just really think about things I want to do, and it can be quite freeing to do that, I think. That said, if you do want to meet up with people, I have seen like threads on there. There's a Japan travel Reddit thread, for example. I think often people are solo travelers there and they say, hey, I'm going to be in this area on this date. Does anybody want to meet up? So that could be a good way to meet people who are in the same situation, and you just want to, go and experience something together.
I've never stayed at a hostel, but I think in hostels a lot of the time people hang out together in the shared lounge area, I think. Or if you went to bars or izakaya, often people would be sitting along the counter. I think that's a place you can get chatting with people if you feel like you want a bit of socialising with other people. They mentioned homesickness as well.
Oh, yes.
I've never really been in Japan long enough to feel homesick, or I was just having so much of a good time that I didn't really miss home that much.
The very first time we were there, I don't think it was homesickness, but I remember feeling a little bit on the isolated side because everything is so different, and we didn't really know what to expect. So the first time we went to Japan, we couldn't use Google Maps or anything.
We didn't have a Wi-Fi, a pocket
No,
Wi-Fi, so
I
we didn't
didn't.
have the internet apart from in our room.
Yeah, so it felt a bit like it wasn't as freeing as it is now when we go around Japan. And I felt a bit like, well, I can't understand anything. Everything was new, and I was worried about trying new food or going to new places. But really, that was just moments of kind of missing a normal comforting experience, but never had it since then. And frankly, it's the other way around. I miss Japan far more than I miss England. Crimson Black 614 asks, I'm thinking about going to Japan. What season should I go? What are the benefits of going in winter, summer, etc.?
Generally, most people think the best times to go are spring and autumn because of the nice weather. In the spring, you've got the cherry blossoms. In the autumn, you've got the autumn leaves. It's warm but not too hot. I would definitely avoid the summer because of the humidity. Way too hot. I know I couldn't cope with that for sure. The winter, we had a winter trip last time when we went to the Sapporo Snow Festival, and I'm not a fan of the cold, but it actually wasn't that bad. And the benefit to going in winter is it is the off season, so it's going to be a lot less busy than other times of year, unless you're there at New Year, which is quite busy for Japanese people travelling around.
So next one is, have you ever been in a scary or dangerous situation whilst in Japan?
I don't think I have been. Could you think of anything?
The only place I felt was a little bit kind of dodgy or seedy would have been when we were in Fukuoka. We went down a set of streets somewhere near, is it Canal
City?
Yeah, somewhere near Canal City, probably a mile or two from there. And it felt just like a bit of a seedier version of Kabukicho.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it only felt like that because it was Kabukicho, but very, very quiet. So we were the only ones walking down the street. But there was absolutely nothing that was threatening about it.
It didn't feel unsafe.
No, it was just, that's the only place I've thought, this is a bit... It could be a bit dangerous, but yeah, really not. When we're in the UK, if I walk around Birmingham at night...
I feel unsafe there.
Yeah, that's very different. So, no, we've never had that. We've never been in a situation where we felt intimidated. Certainly I haven't.
No, not at all. That says something really, doesn't it?
Yeah. Maggie asks, what traditional snack from Japan would you bring back as a gift to someone as with a sweet tooth?
My favourite sweet snack would probably be a taiyaki. They might be a bit difficult to bring back because they tend to cook them fresh, so you can't really bring it back. They do a version in the convenience store. I'm never really sure about what fresh foods you can bring back, so I tend to avoid that completely. A good present for people though is the omiyage boxes they get at sort of gift shops in stations and tourist attractions, because gift giving when you go somewhere is quite a big thing in Japan. They're called omiyage. They do lots of boxes of sweets and snacks that are really beautifully wrapped. We got some for our neighbours for watching our house, and they were really good. They were mochi for cherry blossom season, and they didn't just look nice, they tasted good too.
We bought another box. You didn't eat theirs.
Oh yeah, that would be a faux pas.
Carl Grant, what was it like running your first Kickstarter, and any future plans for others?
It was really nerve-wracking. Before I started it, I almost didn't want to do it. It was just, I didn't know how it was going to go, and it seemed like so much to get all those pledges. I remember looking at the zero before anyone had pledged just after I launched. It was so scary. But I'm really glad I did it in the end because it went so much better than I expected. I would do another one, but it would have to be for the right thing, because you're asking a lot of people to put up money before something's ready, quite a lot in advance. So it would have to be for the right project.
There's quite a lot of companies that will put up a Kickstarter for something they don't need the money for, something they could fund themselves, and they're just looking for the publicity out of it. I think for you, it has to be something that would be very difficult for you to manage without the backing of it. So when there's a good product idea.
Yeah.
This next question is from Paul Smith. My daughter wants to know if you've ever gone to Gotokuji Temple. We went last fall and she loved all the cat figurines. Have you ever collected any Gershwin stamps?
Gotokuji Temple is slightly outside of Tokyo, and they've got a collection of the lucky cats, with the waving arms. And it's been on my list of places I want to go to for ages, but I've never made it there. But it's good to know you enjoyed it, so hopefully we will get there at some point. I'd love to see them all. They look really cute. And I haven't collected any Gershwin either, actually. How disappointing.
It's disappointing.
Got you in a good souvenir from temples or shrines, maybe it's temples, I'm not sure, where you can get a special book for them and they sign it with all nice calligraphy. So it's a nice souvenir.
One day.
Yes. Something else for the Japan to-do list.
Daniel Pfeiffer asks, how did everything start? So
Everything.
So your channel, the Japan videos, your brand. How was your personality before everything started, and have you changed since then?
Wow. Well, I mentioned a bit earlier about how I started Cakes with Faces. And I actually started my channel originally to promote my business, which might sound kind of bad. A lot of people say you should make videos to promote your business. But then my channel sort of turned into a thing all of its own over time, because I found I really enjoyed making videos, which I sort of didn't expect. And obviously I love Japan. And over time, the purpose of it has changed more to sharing what I know about Japan to people planning their trips, because I really do want to help people. And I remember how intimidating it can be when you're planning your first trip and you've never been there before. So I want to help out with all of these, like all your questions.
You do genuinely enjoy it.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So that's how it started, but it's turned into much more of a thing on its own.
Yeah, I mean, it was originally like, what could you put on YouTube to promote Cakes with Faces? And we thought of a few ideas, but they all seemed really weak and forced. And then we thought, well, if you want to make a video, why not just make it about Japan? And has your personality changed?
I think it must have over so many years of it. I don't know if I've changed that much.
No, I mean, I think you're still the same person you were back then.
I think so. It gets a bit easier to make videos over time, though. To start off with, my videos were really, it was like the news.
Yes.
I think everyone hates their old videos when they go back and watch them.
We used to have to pull our living room apart to set up these terrible lights and the camera we had at the time, and put up a big green screen behind it. It was like a full day to record 2 minutes of video.
It was so much work.
That was a bad idea. Spooky Cat, you'll like this question. How about your favourite train?
Trains.
So it could be for the theme or the scenery.
I really like that. Oh, can I have one that I've never been on?
Yeah, why not?
I've never been on it, but I really like the train in Osaka that goes between the airport and the city. It just looks really cool. It looks like some sort of blue robot. But if I have to pick from ones I have been on, I'd probably pick the Shinkansen, the bullet train. It's the best.
I really like the train that goes over the Rainbow Bridge to Odaiba and back.
The Yurakamome line.
Yeah, there's something about that. You can just get a wonderful view of the bay, and whether you're going over in the day or night, it's just, that is what I think about when I think about Japan. I think that's possibly why I like Odaiba so much as well. It's just that whole thing. I think it's because it's one of the first things we did on our first trip as well, because we stayed in Shodome, which is near Odaiba. We did that, and I love it. It's just a fantastic little trip. And other than that, is it a train? Is it in Chiba?
The hanging train.
Yeah,
they're in Chiba.
Yeah, in Chiba. Never been on them, but I've been near them when we've been on the NEX from Narita Airport.
I think they have some hanging trains in Kamakura as well.
Next one, from Michelle. Hello, Amy.
Hello.
Cakes with Faces. What inspired this name?
Cakes with Faces on was some of my favourite things to draw, so I thought it'd be a fun name.
Certainly when you started out, there was a lot of cakes with faces on them. Can you remember what your other names were going to be? The other ones you thought about?
Another one was things with bat wings, because I drew a lot of things with bat wings.
It's not very deep.
No, I went with the cuter name.
And it's not asked, but I'm going to ask this question. What are some of your favourite brand names in Japan?
My favourite is Blah Blah Hospital, which is a fashion brand. It's just great. Blah Blah Hospital.
I really like Tokyo Banana.
I still can't believe that's a thing. Tokyo Banana is the souvenir snack from Tokyo. It's I think it's a bit like, what's the thing they have in America? The sponge cake. A Twinkie.
A Twinkie, okay.
I think it's like a bit like a Twinkie, although I've never had one of them, so I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, just a sponge cake banana.
I've never had one. I just really like the name.
Yeah, I don't know what bananas have got to do with Tokyo.
There are a lot of great brand names. C-Lab, would you ever do a group trip with your YouTube followers and be a tour guide?
Oh wow, can you imagine if we were leading a group of people around Japan?
I think people might expect you to not get lost in like a big station, but that's definitely still going to happen.
It's all part of the experience.
Yeah.
I think being a tour guide is a whole different thing. So I think I'll stick to the videos.
Sophia Silva asks, what visa do you have to live in Japan? Because visas are difficult. Do you have a job there? Is it difficult?
I don't live in Japan. I live in England. A lot of people think I live in Japan, but I don't really know much about moving there or living there. But there's lots of other videos on YouTube, so look them up.
W asks, what jobs did you have prior to running Cakes with Faces and your YouTube channel?
Well, first I had some part-time jobs when I was at uni. I worked in Claire's Accessories. I worked in Waterstones, which I liked because I got a nice staff discount on books. That was very good. And then when I left uni, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I'm always really jealous of people who know from when they're really young what they want to do with the rest of their lives, but I just didn't really know. So I got a job in an office as an admin assistant, which I kind of hated.
Kind of.
I really hated. And then I worked in a library for a bit. I think I was trying to get back my days from working in a bookshop, but it wasn't quite the same.
You were writing a book at the time though.
Oh yeah, that seems like ages ago now. I wrote a book. I tried to get it published and failed. And then I got a job as a graphic designer in-house, doing like corporate brochures for a scientific company. And that was a lot better than my other jobs. It was edging towards the sort of thing I really wanted to do.
Whilst you're in the library, whilst you're working at the library, not in it, whilst you're working there, you did start to sort of teach yourself graphic design, and you've always been artistic. So it perhaps wasn't as difficult for you as it would have been for me, who's got no artistic skills. But you spent quite a long time teaching yourself from like tutorials and magazines and things. So you had some skills, and then you saw the job and you applied for it and got that. And yeah, that was it was a good job, right? But it just wasn't the creative. You didn't have the creativity you wanted out of it.
Yeah, but I learnt a lot of things that helped me do other things for Cakes with Faces. So it's all a journey.
Yeah. Jeff Wallin asks, I love your video and book.
Thank you.
During my first visit to Japan last year, I stuck mostly to the Golden Route. What would you recommend as an area worth exploring during a second visit? Up towards Hokkaido, down towards Kyushu, somewhere else?
After the Golden Route, I don't think there's really a set place that everybody goes to as a next step on from that. So it's down to what you enjoy. Like if you wanted to see wintry Japan, go to Hokkaido. Maybe you want to see tropical Hawaii style Japan in Okinawa. Somewhere that I really enjoyed was Kyushu. I think there's loads of really interesting places to see there, like the Beppu Hills. We went to a volcano in Kagoshima. There's also Nagasaki that we didn't go to. So loads of places in Kyushu that are really interesting.
I'm keen to go back to Kyushu. There was a lot we didn't really get to see. We were there for, 5 days?
Maybe not even that.
Yeah, it wasn't very long, and it felt like it was, the cities were nice. They were a quiet version of Tokyo, but still had that kind of feeling and vibe. The countryside was just stunning.
A lot of unusual places.
And easy to get around for the most part.
Yeah, because it's got a Shinkansen line, a bullet train route going up and down.
Yeah, so I'd recommend that. Right, we have a question from Lee White, who wants to know, what is the most beautiful place you stayed in Japan? They're looking for idea for their 40th. Loved Asakusa. And they're looking for somewhere nice and traditional, but not far from an arcade, as hooked on UFO catchers. I get that.
I think the most beautiful place we've stayed is in Matsushima, which is in Tohoku near Sendai on the coast. And there's a bay with loads of little islands in, and it's just beautiful views. And when we stayed there, we had a voucher, so we splashed out on a fancy hotel which had a view over everything. That was really lovely. Yeah. And you're only half an hour away from Sendai, which is a big city with arcades. We've been to them. Yes. We had a good night there.
Yeah. One place I would like to stay is Miyajima. You can actually stay on the island, can't you?
Oh yeah, that would be good.
Stunning. I don't think there's many UFO catchers on there, but there will be nearby. But that would be a stunning place. But even in Tokyo itself, there's plenty of hotels which are positioned on top of office buildings that give you a nice high view. We stayed in one in Shodome where you've got a view across the Tokyo Bay, which was just stunning. Christina Sanchez de Beggs. We're going to go on a family trip in Japan in 2021, hopefully. We were all hoping. We'd really like to stay in a ryokan, but they seem really expensive for the four of us, like £500 for one night. That's a lot of money. Doesn't seem like it's easy to book them through hotel websites like hotels.com easier. Is it possibly that it's too early to book for some time like April? Or is there just not many to choose from? Is it worth staying in one? And where's the best place to book? Anywhere you recommend, etc.
Ryokan can be more expensive than a normal hotel. That's because they include the price of a fancy meal for dinner and often breakfast as well. So that's part of what you're paying for within the price. So they will cost more than a normal hotel. And it's sort of a luxury experience where you stay in a beautiful historic room, you have a meal with lots of different dishes, you go to the hot spring. So they're going to cost more than a normal hotel. If you're looking for April, it's possible it would be a bit too early at the moment. Sometimes you can't book hotels until 6 months before, or sometimes even 3 months. So keep checking back for April. Somewhere you can book them is on Expedia. If you just search on Google for Expedia Ryokan, they've got a special search page that is just for ryokans. And then after that, it will just be like booking a regular hotel. So that's a good place to look.
One thing you can do is, if you're staying for multiple nights, perhaps try and just stay for 1 or 2 nights in a ryokan. That's what I try and do because it is a lot of money otherwise. But a wonderful experience. Nigel Hughes asks, what is the most over or underrated part of Tokyo? I wasn't mad at Roppongi, but I really liked Ueno.
I wasn't that keen on Roppongi either, actually. I don't know if anywhere is really overrated in particular.
I think a lot of people go to Japan and they're really obsessed with the idea of spending all their time in Akihabara. And there's a lot you can do there, but it is just one small part of the city.
There's a lot more to it than that.
I don't think it's misrepresented. I think what you see is absolutely what you get. But I think some people, they do hype it up in their mind and they can get through Akiba in a day or two and then feel a bit like, well, is that all Tokyo's got to offer? And the answer is no, there's loads more.
So you don't mean that it's disappointing, it's there's a lot more to Tokyo than that.
Yeah, I think it's how you frame it. So some people see that as Tokyo. Certainly when we were looking at trips for the first time, it's hard to comprehend what is Tokyo, because you've got this thing called Tokyo Station in the middle, but then Akiba's over there and you're not really sure what's in Shinjuku and you're not really sure what's in Ikebukuro. So I think the most disappointing way you can travel is to just try and stay in one area. I think you should really try and explore all of Tokyo. But I can't think of anywhere that is like... Actually, there's one place we went. People said it's a really up-and-coming area.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember what it was.
That's the only place we've really been disappointed by was Kagurazaka, which isn't one of the main areas to go at all. It's more like a place for your second or third trip once you've explored the main places. But it's supposed to be really stylish and have alleyways and things, and we just didn't really get along with it that much. Maybe it's not our style. I just went there and thought, I don't think there's anything much that's interesting.
Yeah, I just don't think it played into our interests at all. What about underrated?
Underrated, I would say I really enjoyed looking around Yanesen and the Yanaka area, which is what we did after we landed once. That was an interesting time.
Very sleepy.
But there's the main famous street which has a lot of cat things and souvenir shops, but the best bit was just walking around the alleyways and the back streets, some of them just where people lived, and seeing all these picturesque alleys. That was really nice, and that's not often on the lists of top things to do in Tokyo, and I think it should be a bit more well known.
Yeah, I agree. I think another place that sometimes, again, not overrated, but there's confusing expectations is Harajuku, because people expect it to be like a big cosplay party, and it's just not. Especially now, it's getting more and more corporate, because that's unfortunately the way things go. So it's not, as some guidebooks will tell you, a place to go spotting for people in all kinds of crazy outfits. There are some people around, but generally it's a place to go to find interesting fashion, especially if you go around the back streets.
I'd love to go back in time and go to Harajuku in the 90s when there were loads of people dressed up all colourful and the Harajuku girls hanging out everywhere, but it's just not like that anymore. Either these people hang out somewhere else or they just take pictures at home instead, and Harajuku's become more and more full of tourists, unfortunately.
So again, not disappointing, but it isn't as it was 5-10 years ago. It is changing. So if you go, just you'll find some cool stuff there, but it's not necessarily a completely different world like you might expect it to be. Tomasero asks, which railway museum do you recommend? And would you recommend an upgrade to the Green Pass for a 2 to 3 week family travel on the Golden Route?
Right, railway museums. The one I'd most like to go to is the Maglev Museum, which is near Nagoya, because that's all about the bullet train, which is the best. And a Green Pass, I think if you've got the money in your budget to get a Green Pass, by all means, that would be fantastic. But just standard class on the Shinkansen is better than any other train I've been on. So you won't be disappointed with just standard class.
What's the main reason to get a Green Pass?
Oh, I should have said Green Pass is like first class, so it's upgraded a bit fancier than standard class.
Is there any advantage to your luggage or anything?
I think there might be a slight difference under the new luggage regulations on the Shinkansen.
Is it more likely
I'm
to
not
get your
sure.
luggage on it?
But you're more likely to get a reservation if it's a busy time. So if you are there during Golden Week or Cherry Blossom season or a busy time, fewer people have the Green Pass, so you're more likely to get a seat.
Ollie Ollie Ollie, favourite karaoke song, favourite anime?
My karaoke song is 99 Red Balloons, the cover by Goldfinger, because I can sing the German part.
How does that one go?
I'm not singing it now. No way.
We do love the ska punk, skate punk karaoke. Favourite anime?
K-On! Will always be my favourite. It's about some schoolgirls that form a band, and it's the cutest.
Right, this question is from Long Distance Coaster Relationships.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Will you ever do any videos on some of the great Japanese theme or amusement parks? Not sure if that's your thing, but Japan has some of the greatest thrill rides and theme parks in the world. It does.
We do like theme parks, especially all the Disney parks around the world. We've been to Tokyo Disney, but we haven't really been to the others around Japan.
No. I mean, we've been to quite a lot of theme parks around the world. And I do like the big coasters, and like Fuji-Q looks absolutely brilliant. And where was the one you wanted to go to?
Oh, I wanted to go to Yomiuri Land, which is just outside Tokyo, because they had winter illuminations that were going to be on for our trip in May, which seems quite late for them to be on actually. And that looked really good. They've got a cup noodle themed rapids ride and all sorts of things there, as well as the illuminations that look beautiful.
So, I mean, there's a good chance we will go. It just somehow hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Yeah, it just seems that we pack the days with something else. But yeah, one day. Daniel Fernandez. I'm thinking of going to Japan for 22 days at the end of 2021, between September and March 2022. Do you think this is a good time to visit Japan, or would you recommend another month? So between September and March.
That's all good times.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think September is still within typhoon season. I think typhoon season goes on until October, so that might be something to watch out for. Sometimes there are typhoons in September.
It can make it just a bit rainy. Obviously, the typhoon it can be a problem.
Yeah,
but
apart from that, I don't think there are any bad times within that time period at all.
I don't know what it's like going over Christmas. I think places still remain open. It's not.
Yeah, Christmas isn't such a big thing, but New Year's things might be shut for a day or two, and it's a holiday in Japan, so a lot of people visit their families, so the trains might be a bit busy as well.
But if you're going for 22 days, then you shouldn't have a problem. They're all good times.
Sounds good.
Holly and quite a few others have asked about how you handle the long-haul flight to Japan.
It is a long flight. From the UK, it's 11 and a half hours to Japan, and there's no way around it. You've got to do it if you want to go. But it's not that bad. If you're on a direct flight, you can watch a film, have a meal, watch another film, have a sleep, watch another film, and then you're there. That's it. Yeah. The biggest tip I have to make it more comfortable is get some noise cancelling headphones, because you've got the background noise of the plane and it can make it quite hard to sleep and hard to hear anything on your headphones. So just keep your noise cancelling headphones on. It makes it a lot easier. Next
up, we've got loads of questions from Queen Paige. So Quickfire. When is your next trip to Japan?
I don't know, but hopefully not too far away when it's safe to travel again.
Will you release a version of the sample version of your Northern Lights dress?
No, I won't be, but I will be selling the samples at some point.
What's your favourite anime and favourite anime character of all time?
K-On! And my favourite is Azunyan.
Best experience with one of your customers at Comic-Con or Hyper Japan, or just in general?
There's so many. I always love seeing people at the store. Probably the best was my first customer on my very first show, because when I had my first stall, I didn't know if anyone would buy anything at all. So when someone finally did, it was such a relief. And I still get messages from her today.
She's super friendly.
She is really nice.
She's really nice. Favourite memory in Japan?
There's so many. I loved visiting the bamboo garden in Kamakura. It was so peaceful and just a really lovely place.
And what was the best day of your life?
The best day of my life? Wow, these are big questions. Today. We've had so many good days. One time on my birthday we went on segways, and then I got my first hamster, well, my second hamster. My first hamster as an adult. Our first hamster. And we had chocolate cake and watched Disney films and got Chinese takeaway. So that was a pretty good day. I don't know. Maybe the best day is still to come.
Do you sell in Japan?
Yes, I sell to all countries on my website.
John G asks, Amy, I was startled when I first saw your feed outside your fortnightly schedule. My question is about food. Specifically, to what extent are chemical additives added to konbini foods and bentos? Are all the ingredients listed on the packaging?
They will list all ingredients, but they'll probably be in Japanese, so that can be a bit tricky. I'd say if there is something you're allergic to or you don't want to eat, do some research beforehand so you can recognise the packets when you're in Japan. Maybe save the pictures to your phone or something, because even if you know a bit of Japanese, checking ingredients lists when you're there is going to be quite difficult.
I don't know how effective things like Google Lens, Google Translate are on packages, but that's a strategy you can use now. But yeah, a little bit of research is helpful to know. So because you don't like, you're a vegetarian, it's not always obvious that there's fish stock in ramen, so that's just something you have to know.
You have to know what things to look out for.
Yeah, you kind of specifically look for ones that don't contain that, which makes life a lot easier for you. And that's it, we have hit the end of the questions. There have been a lot of questions. Really sorry if yours didn't get read out, if I missed it. Hopefully everyone's found this useful though.
Yes, if your question wasn't included, it's not because it wasn't a good question, it's just because there were a lot of questions. But we hope you've enjoyed hearing all the answers, and if you've got anything to add, put it in the comments.
Yeah, maybe we'll do another one day.
Yes. And I'll be back, not next Thursday, but the one after, with more videos about Japan.
Excellent.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.